Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Welcome everybody to our session this week in which we're continuing our study of Surah Yasin. Please, as always, please feel free to let us know where you're joining us from. And also, as always, should there be any technical issues, should any arise, then please just follow us on Twitter, and inshallah you'll find out what to do next. 1 second. Okay, we're going to inshallah get started. Right, we're going to jump right in, inshallah. Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen wa sallallahu wa sallama ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Allahumma la ilma lana illa ma 'allamtana innaka antal alimul hakim. Allahumma 'allimna ma yanfa'una wanfa'na bima tu'allimuna wa zidna min fadlika 'ilman wa ta'liman innaka 'ala kulli shay'in qadir. ربنا آتنا من لدنك رحمة وهيئ لنا من أمرنا رشدا. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So we continue then our journey through this beautiful chapter of the Holy Quran, chapter 36, Surah Yasin, called the Heart of the Holy Quran. We've now had 2 sessions together, and they're all up online if anybody has missed any of them. In our first session, we looked at the first 12 verses, in which we've called here the message and the messenger, and it set this very powerful introduction of the magnitude, the grandeur of the book, the might and mercy of the one who sent the book and wisdom, and that incredible being who received the book, who is on the best of all paths, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and then people. The people to whom this message has been sent, who have 2 distinct forms of response to this message. Those who reject and are prisoners to their bad choices, and those who closely follow the remembrance and are in awe of their Lord. And we saw last week the very last part of that first section, which was the verse that emphasized that we, God, in our absolute majesty, we will bring everyone back. And we record every single thing. And that statement is what we're going to find flowing through now, a lot of the messages that we'll be seeing. And so then last week, we went straight to a story. It was a very quick story, didn't have a lot of the details in it of names or people or places, but its connection was extremely clear. An illustration of 2 very distinct ways people respond to this message. Those who, when the prophets came, said, we're going to kill you. We are irritated by you. You guys are bad luck. And the man, the singular man, who came running and said, my people, please listen. They're not asking you for anything. And they're giving you the keys to everything. And the outcome of each of these, if we saw that story of last week, everyone ended up dying. The believer died, the people died. But the differences were stark. The believer had this incredible stand to honor the prophets, and he was told, go straight to the garden. And the other people were humiliated, destroyed by a scream, and they were finished for their insolence to the messengers. From that, now we enter this next section of our surah, which I've called Signs in the Universe. Another theme that goes throughout the entire Holy Quran, calling people to reflect on God's signs in the order that He's created to illustrate, to prove His power, His might, His wisdom, and that everything runs for a purpose, and man has a purpose. So a simple map of what we'll be seeing today is we'll have a few verses just lamenting the state of people, that they hasten to reject and they don't take their time to think. And from that, we get taken on this journey now, a journey first into the earth, in which we look at the most patent and visible sign of something dead coming to life, namely the earth. And then that we look up into the heavens and we have this incredible series of reflections on the day, the night, the sun, the moon. And then in a very subtle use of words, we find ourselves suddenly from the planets into the seas, the signs at sea. And then finally, we come back again to where we started, which was how these people who don't reflect on anything hasten to reject reminders of what's already come from before, and even reminders to be decent to each other. Now, the way the Holy Quran presents its signs, as we have been seeing and we will see, is they always fit into a subtle argument. So if the argument of this surah is, you guys have to think carefully how you're going to respond to the Messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and you will have a return back to your Lord. So choose carefully. Then the story that comes to prove it will target these points. And the signs in the universe will come to target these points. And so the signs we're going to be seeing today do target this particular fact. God can bring the dead to life. And God has a lot of power. And everything follows its course, and mankind has his course. So the signs fit clearly into this argument the surah has started with in the beginning, and the surah will conclude with at the end. However, when the Quran presents these signs for this argument, it presents them in a way to fit into other global arguments within the Holy Quran. So the signs will be moments to reflect on not only that God can bring the dead to life, that he is very powerful, that everything follows a course, but also, wow, he's taking care of you guys. Shouldn't you reflect and be grateful? So there's a whole other set of ways in which these signs are going to be speaking to us, in addition to their basic way that they connect to the arguments of this surah. But first, we're going to start from where we ended off last time, because the very last verse was what? It was that the people of that town, whom we had in our story, they were not destroyed by any host of forces from the sky. It was but one scream, and their fires were and the fires within them all died out, i.e., they all came to an end. And so now almost you find Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala if you like, in his speech now, after that story has come to an end. And what do you find? A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Ya hasratan ala al-ibad ma ya'tihim min rasulin illa kanu bihi yastahzi'un. Oh, woe over the slaves. Ya is what they call the vocative. It's a way that you call on someone, typically someone who's distant. Oh, so-and-so, come. But what's being called upon is hasra. Hasra means the most extreme level of remorse, the extreme sadness over what's happened, and a real regret for an opportunity that's been missed. So what does it mean to call sadness? Sadness, come. Sadness, come here. This is the time to be sad. Ya hasra is a phrase which almost personifies sadness, as if sadness is somewhere else and sadness we call, come, sadness, sadness. This is where you have to be. There's nothing more sad than this scene that's right in front of us now. Ya hasratan. And so this phrase, or this way of expressing emotions, ya, and then you have your emotion, is a way to express from within you that this is the time that real sadness has to be shown. Ya hasratan ala al-ibad. What an incredible remorse. Again, this is indefinite to show it's a remorse. Come. Which remorse? Over these slaves. calling all of these people now, they were all God's slaves. They were fighting, they were rejecting, they were insulting the prophets. They say, we owe God nothing. Look, he's looking after us. We have all this fine clothing. He doesn't want anything else from us. You're all a bunch of liars, acting like kings in the earth, but they were only his slaves. They were only the lowly beings that God had kept on this earth. Oh, what a sadness for these people. And it's a remorse on people in general now, not just the people of the Qarya, not just the people of Quraysh, but this pattern that all of them are following. Oh, sadness for these slaves. What is their case? ما يأتيهم من رسول. No Rasul at all, meaning a being sent by God. A being sent by God to help people out, to guide them, to show them, to remind them. None at all, the min, like from any messenger at all, no messenger at all comes to them. Ya'ti is, we're going to see a lot of repeated styles that we've been seeing. This is a present tense verb, meaning continuity. Messengers have come a lot to people. Messengers have come a lot to people to remind them. And no messenger comes at all, whenever he comes, any messenger at all, except this is always what he's met with. There's no state that people are in except for this state. When the messengers come, all that they have ever been doing, kana is a past tense, everything they've ever been doing is that they have been mocking. This is a present tense verb. So it's what you call a past continuous tense. I used to sit and read. I used to be eating, or I was eating. So in the past, this is my continuous way. That any messenger who comes to people, what's he met with? People have always met that with mocking. The messenger comes, he's mocked. Another messenger comes, he's mocked. That's the constant response to the constant sending of these messages. Except that they would mock and make fun of them. Bihi, make fun of the messenger. But in the Arabic, the bihi comes in front of the making fun. So how do you translate this literally? No messenger at all comes to people except that they would, with him or of him or at him, mock. So that the at him comes in front to show the shock. Of all people, this is the one you're going to be laughing at, the one that God has sent for you. So that's why sadness has to come. If there's any missed opportunity, if there's any chance for greatness that was thrown away and squandered, if there's any bunch of souls who have wasted their entire lives and they will regret it themselves, this is what sadness is all about. There's no sadness but this sadness. There's no missed opportunity except for this opportunity, the mocking of the messengers that have come to them. Alam yarau, didn't they see? All of these people, alam yarau, didn't they see? Come means how many. If you read the verse first, actually. Alam yarau kam ahlakna qablahum min al-qurun annahum ilayhim la yarji'un. Didn't they see? Again, this is a question. So the is what you translate here with your question mark. And the question is one of criticizing them. Like, didn't you see that? Couldn't they see that? Alam yarau, didn't they see? And the seeing could be with the eye and it could be with the heart, which is the seeing of knowledge. Because the point of the stories of the people who've gone before is you're meant to visualize, see, reflect, and understand, well, what am I meant to be learning from this? Didn't they see how many we in our majesty have destroyed? قَبْلَهُمْ, from before them, مِنَ الْقُرُونَ, of all of these generations that have passed. And the first generation that were destroyed for rejecting a messenger from God are the people of Nuh, or Noah, alayhi salatu wassalam. And we're going to mention him in a little bit later. And all peoples have a story of some sorts of this great flood, the great second father of humanity, the Prophet Nuh, alayhi salatu wassalam, and then the peoples after them. and the Bibles has stories, and the Quran is full of these stories of the people who've come, they rejected their prophets, and they were wiped out. How many civilizations have come and they're all gone? How many kings boasted in their palaces and their palaces are destroyed and their rubbles and their ruins, and these people are lost and their treasures are scattered? Haven't they seen how many people we have destroyed? A destruction that was so complete that none of them are ever going to come back to you. Annahum, haven't they reflected on the fact that these people who've perished from before, to them are not returning? There's no anticipation that any of these people will ever come back. The great civilizations, the great inventions, the great treasures, the great things, none of them are coming back. None of them are coming back. And not only that, they haven't just perished to nothing, but they are all on their own journey. And that's the theme throughout this passage we'll be seeing today. The sun has its journey, the moon has its journey, everything has its journey, man has his journey. And the journey of man is that he has to go back to God. So haven't they seen all of those people who've gone? They've all been perished. They've all been wiped out. None of them are coming back. And do you know what's more than that? So it's come in a very emphatic sentence. You've seen this before a few times now. There's no verbs in this sentence at all. It's just a statement of fact. There's no will be or was. This is a fact. And it's a fact. If I don't translate he hasn't translated these two boxes, so I'll come back to them later. He actually skipped them in the translation. Let's just look at the Arabic first of all then. Each of them, every single one of all those who've gone before, the people of Ad and Thamud and the pharaohs and all these kings and people we know about, people we don't know about, each and every one of them are going to be gathered. Jami' here means majmu', means brought together. You have Jama'a, it's coming together. All of these people will be gathered. They will be all together. They've moved on to meet up. They moved on to meet up, but where? In our presence, before us, with us. They've not gone on except to come to our presence, and they will be summoned. Muhdarun. Muhdar means somebody was brought so they could be hadir, so they could be present. So every one of those people, haven't they seen how they've all gone? And now we're being told, and all of them will be gathered, the great gathering. And the great gathering of all is the gathering in our presence. And they will be summoned. They will be called and they will be there. And you're going to see a very visual expression of this verse in next week's presentation, inshallah ta'ala. Because the surah is presenting all these threads, which is going to tie together very, very beautifully. So this is a thread, and this thread will be tied in what we're going to be seeing next week. One thing before we continue, though, the verse doesn't just say each of them are going to be gathered, but a common Arabic phrase, not and except. Oops, sorry. Not and except. None of them, there are no such people who are destroyed except that they will be gathered. No one will be left out. And in is one of the most emphatic forms of saying not. And lamma is a very rare but emphatic way of saying except. So it's saying, so it's a very forceful language. No verbs, no promises, just a fact, with a very forceful negation and a very forceful exception. There is none of these people at all, except for sure they will be gathered in our presence, summoned, and they'll answer that summoning. After that brief conclusion of this lamenting, why have the people not reflected? That they have a course, and the course is with us. So after saying they should have reflected on the people before, now we're going to go on to this question that arises from this statement of fact. They will be gathered. And if people are doubting the gathering, let them think about it. So this set of universal signs we're going to be seeing now The immediate connection is with the gathering, which has been promised in that statement. But they tie to, like I said, general reminders now of gratitude to Allah, and most importantly, the universe works to an order. Things move for a purpose. Man's purpose is to go back to God. So in a variety of ways now, these signs are going to tie back to that ultimate statement. There are no people who've gone except they'll be gathered in our presence. So the first of these signs, وَآيَةٌ, وَآيَةٌ, and a sign, a pointer to something. It's something which is fixed and it points to something beyond it. It's quite fascinating that the verses of the Holy Qur'an are called ayahs, because every verse is a sign that it's come from Allah, a sign of Al-Aziz Ar-Rahim, like we took last time, Tanzeel Al-Aziz Ar-Rahim. It's something which is fixed, it's firm, and it points to something beyond it. It points to its source, it points to its Lord, it points to all these vistas of reflection. And so the Quran refers to two signs of Allah, two ayahs. The ayahs you recite, which are the ayahs we're studying, and the ayahs in all of the universe. And in so doing, the universe is then treated like the Quran. So if the Quran is a book of incredible signs, the universe is this canvas of incredible signs. And everything points back to the one. Ayatun, an incredible sign. Again, I'm saying incredible for this thing we've been seeing a lot. It's indefinite here, and it's in a context of magnifying it. Ayatun, and what a sign it is. Lahum, or we will recite this first. وآية لهم الأرض الميتة أحييناها وأخرجنا منها حبا فمنه يأكلون. And a great sign for them, for their sake. La, it is for their sake, it's for the sake of people. Things have come to you in this way. The food doesn't just drop and materialize. Food follows a course. And that course is something you should reflect upon. The way of the world is what you are called to one. A sign for these people is the ard. The ard, this mother of ours. Mother Earth. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Minha khalaqnakum wa fiha nu'idukum wa minha nukhrijukum taratan ukhra. From it we created you, to it we will return you, and from it we will bring you out again. So the earth is this source of incredible treasures which we live on. And you know what? Everything you're wearing, every device you're using, do you guys know that? The computers you're typing away at, the phones, everything came from the earth. There's nothing here that did not come from the earth. There's nothing on top of the earth except it came from the earth. This incredible sign of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this earth, but the focus right now is not the earth as a treasure chest. That's reflected on elsewhere, but reflected on here is the earth which is dead. And this is so visible for the people of the desert, and that's why it comes as the most frequent sign. Haven't you seen the dead earth turn green? Can't you see that one can bring the dead to life? Ahyaynaha, reflect on the coming to life of the dead earth. We, in our majesty and grandeur, have brought this dead thing to life. And it shows so amazingly in the desert. All you need is a rain. And this barren land is green and vibrant. And sometimes it has colors. It's an incredible transformation that comes with the rain. وَأَخْرَجْنَا, and we in our might have brought out something great from it. What have we brought out? Habban, grain. Grain refers to, wheat, barley, grain. And the grain isn't what comes out of the earth. The grain is, if you like, the purpose at the end of it. Again, purposeness, or the purpose behind everything, is what we'll be seeing again and again in these signs. So what you find is the rain falls, and this earth that looks like there's nothing possible that can come out of it, you find these stalks come out. And these stalks aren't just stalks of no benefit, because then they'll grow ears, and in the ears you'll find the grain. And this grain is such an incredible sustenance. It says over here, yeah, he's captured the order here this time in his translation. The Arabic says, Minhu ya'kulun. From it they regularly eat. Again, it's a present tense verb. The idea being emphasizing grain as the most fundamental sustenance on which people live. The people of Arabia, the people of Medina ate dates, and they were farmers. We're going to come to the farmland. Otherwise, the basic grain was just all you had was your grain, and it was often not even crushed. It was just your raw wheat, and they might cook it in water and just eat it as a sort of porridge. So the grain is the most fundamental sustenance. It's an incredible sustenance, and it comes out of these stalks from an earth that had nothing in it. So without a doubt, the one who can do that can bring the dead to life. He brings such intricate things. Of course, he can bring man back after man is gone. And in further to that, can't you reflect that the one who does all of that, he's the one that you should surrender your beings to in worship? And then it goes on in the signs of the earth. وَجَعَلْنَا, and we, all of these are great signs. So they're all ascribed to the we of majesty. These are incredible acts. You shouldn't belittle or think little of the processes that bring you this sustenance. And we, in our greatness, have placed in it jannatin, these multitude of glorious gardens, which contain within them nakhil and a'nab, palm trees and grapevines. Here they're pluralized while the grain was singular. So it's the commentators emphasizing types. There's such a variety that comes out of these palm trees and these vines. These beautiful sweet fruits as well, not just your basic grains. He didn't just keep us alive with the most basic grains, but he gave us incredible variety of fruits which come in these beautiful gardens. And he gave us the means to sustain these gardens. وَفَجَّرْنَا فِيهَا مِنَ الْعُيُونِ, and we in our majesty caused to gush. Fajjara, we use it in modern Arabic to mean to explode. We cause this literally this explosion of springs that come out of the ground wherever there are gardens. Because gardens mean that there's either this natural spring, natural water is everywhere, and these beautiful trees are growing, or it's people have come and created this irrigation so that the gardens can arise. So it's not simply the dead earth coming to life now. Now it's in some parts, this incredible means of water is there, so beautiful gardens are found. All of that is for a purpose. All that's to an end. All that's for an advantage. Again, is this very important and recurring particle we're going to see today, which is the particle of purpose, for the sake of. لِيَأْكُلُوا, so they could eat from its fruits. The fruits, why is the spring there? Why are these beautiful gardens there? These incredible trees that took years to grow. All of that, the end result is this beautiful fruit that these people can eat from. So these incredible means that God has made to bring you these beautiful fruits. وَمَا عَمِلَتْهُ أَيْدِيهِمْ, so they could eat from the fruits and whatever, the ma is whatever it might be, that their hands will produce and work. So amal in Arabic means work. It's like conscious effort. It's not something that happens all of a sudden. You have to plan, you take the means, and you work. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has brought out these incredible means so you could eat from the fruits and you could make and produce from them juice and your date pastes and the things you produce from what comes out of it. And so then comes this big challenge of all of that. Is a question, and this question is there to rebuke. Then you have the word then. What does then mean? After all of that, after reflecting that this earth in and of itself is barren, and it's Allah who sent these incredible means, whether it's rain from the sky or the gushing of springs from the ground, and He gives you this incredible sustenance, which you can eat it and you can produce beautiful things from it. Then after observing all of that, do you not, present tense verb, do you not regularly show thanks? Like, what's wrong with you? And so it's an incredible rebuke that if you're seeing all of this, the wonders of this world, then why should this not drive you to feeling a regular, perpetual, continuous, because his blessings are continuous, a continuous expression of thanks? That's what he deserves, not what we've been seeing. You guys are liars and we owe God nothing and we're not going back and he can't bring the dead to life. Not only can he, but doesn't he deserve a regular, perpetual, constant expression of deep thanks? Verily he does. Subhan is the most incredible word. Subhanallah is a phrase that we've all come across a lot. What does it mean? If we think of what we already are familiar with, we think of subhanallah. Yeah, we use it to, when something amazing happens. Not subhanallah, it's amazing. Look at that beautiful bird, subhanallah. You know, the guy who was never going to pass the exam. Yeah, he passed the exam. Wow, subhanallah, that's amazing. So you use subhanallah to show wonder and amazement. We, in the dhikrs after the prayer, we say subhanallah first, then we say alhamdulillah, then we say Allahu Akbar. What does the phrase mean? The phrase means it's the most emphatic, and I'll explain a sort of evolution, why it's so emphatic. It's the most emphatic declaration of God's perfection. He is above and beyond any possible, he's above and beyond everything that doesn't befit him. Every inadequate description, he is above it. Every inadequate, any conceived form of deficiency, he is above it. He is above and beyond every unworthy description and every limitation. He's the absolute perfect. He's the absolute perfect being. That's what we say when we say subhanallah. Where does it come from? There's a verb, because it's going to come again in just a little bit. And we'll see a regular play on words a little bit, as we'll be seeing. So sabaha, first of all, just the root sabaha, we use that in modern Arabic to mean swimming. Masbah is a swimming pool. And in its origin, it means to move quickly, to traverse distance quickly. So they might describe a horse, okay, classical Arabs, as sabuh, which means it really is a very fast at galloping. So tasbih, that's why it means, you know, extreme distance is what they took from this. So tasbih or usabbihullah means I am declaring Allah's distance, i.e. above everything which is not fitting of him. And then we went to saying usabbihu tasbihan. Sorry, I'm going to write this in Arabic. There's no harm in just explaining, because we say subhanallah so much, is how do I guess the scholars of Arabic understand the origin of this phrase. And I do apologize. I know many of you will not be able to read what I'm writing right now, because my writing is not that good, maybe. Usabbihu tasbihan means I really declare God's distance and perfection. And then we omit the I as a verb and just said his distance and perfection. From whoever says it, it is great. And then we move from that to subhan, which is an emphatic form of tasbih. So this idea that he deserves the most emphatic declaration of his absolute perfection. Subhanallah. Subhanallah. He is the perfect. That's why Imam Razi says we say Subhanallah first to say he's free of everything that doesn't befit him. It's the perfection of his being. Then we say Alhamdulillah to praise him for his acts of kindness to us. We first declare his perfection, and then we declare an appreciation from all the good that comes from that perfect being. Subhana, how really perfect he is, above and beyond what they ascribe to him, of his inability to bring the dead back, of his lack of the lack of purpose and wisdom in his creation. He is above all of that. But instead of simply saying Subhanallah, it describes Allah with a description to bring forth even more, even more a point of reflection why he is so perfect. And it ties to an end this section on the earthly signs. He says, how perfect, how glorious, how beyond completely these limited imaginations of people is that one who created the pairs. The zawj is the pair. In Arabic, we don't really say zawj and zawja for man and wife. We use zawj for zawaj is marriage. Marriage means pairing. But in classical Arabic, both the man and the woman are called the zawj of each other. Each is the pair of the other. How perfect is the one who created all of the pairs. Where are these pairs? From what the earth brings out, there is a pairing. And within themselves, the world of the human, there is a pairing. And from even the beings they don't even know about, there is a pairing. So it's talking about this incredible order that Allah has created in everything. And everything comes in these incredible pairings, even of what they don't know. The electrons and the protons, the acids in the DNA, everything is part of this incredible order of pairing. And He created it all. How perfect is the one who created it all. And it's interesting that we speak of pairing, because that is the fruit of all of this. You know, what God gives us in the earth, what's the consequence of it? Is that we eat it. And when we eat it, what happens? Humanity flourishes. We have children, we have offspring, and humanity flourishes in the earth, and it all comes from the dead earth. So the dead earth is what gives humanity life after life after life. Father to child, to grandchild, to great-grandchild. This dead earth is the source of our continual recreation on earth. So how can He not bring man back to life? And now we move towards the heavens. While we're reflecting on the incredible might of God and the beautiful order, now we are called to look up. And the most obvious sign to reflect upon is the sign of day and night. And when it comes to reflecting on the universe, you know, there's a branch of modern Quranic studies. They call it, you know, al-i'jaz al-ilmi, or the scientific miracle of the Holy Qur'an. What you find interesting within the Quranic expression is the Qur'an is the book of the universe. The Qur'an is the book of nature. It will always ask you, why are you not connected to nature? Isn't nature directing you to something? Why are you blind to the book of nature? So the Quran is ever the book of the world. But what's so incredible is it speaks of this world in such powerful imagery, and we'll see very powerful images are being evoked as in the choice of how the universe is going to be described right now. But it speaks in a way that as time goes on and as we learn more about the universe, those images don't fade, but they only become sharper. And that's the wonder of how this book expresses knowledge of everything. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in this book, it has tafsil li kulli shay. It has the detailing of everything. And that's one of the incredible just wonders of the book. It details everything in a way that the more we learn, the more we reach the heavens, it only brings these images into sharper focus, not into less focus. Let's look at the image right now in this verse. And Aubrey doesn't even capture it, or he captures it somewhat. An incredible sign for them is the night. So it says, focus on the night. نَسْلَخُ مِنْهُ النَّهَارِ وَآيَةٌ لَهُمُ اللَّيْلُ نَسْلَخُ مِنْهُ النَّهَارَ فَإِذَا هُمْ مُظْلِمُونَ. An incredible sign for them is the night. Aubrey says, we strip the day from it, and lo and behold, all of a sudden, noun sentence with no verbs, they are in darkness. They are in darkness. So it's interesting, it doesn't in this verse make day and night a simple binary. Oh, sometimes there's night and sometimes there's day. It actually says what happens is we strip the day and lo, all that there is darkness. Here we have to look at the Arabic. Salakha is a word used even in modern Arabic to mean to remove the skin of an animal. And so what it's saying is that the day is, its relation to the night is just like a skin. There's no equality there. It's a little skin. When you remove the skin, all that you're left with is darkness. And it's quite fascinating because if we think of daylight, why do we have daylight? People often think we have daylight because of the sun, but we don't have daylight because of the sun, because when you go into space, Forget space. Just fly up. Just fly up a few. We move up a few 10, 100 kilometers. You're going to find us as we leave the atmosphere. It all goes dark. That someone just turns the light off, and you can see the sun, but there's no daylight. So daylight is not a function simply of the sun. It's a function of the Earth's atmosphere and the density of gases the Earth attracts to itself, which diffuse the light of the sun, and you get this incredible phenomenon of daylight. And so daylight is almost an accident. It's just a side substrate of sunlight. It's not the fact of the universe or the fact of the solar system. The fact of the solar system is darkness. And so if you take like an image of what daylight would look like when you're in space, that's all you'd see. It's all dark. Everything is dark. And there's this little membrane of light that's floating over the Earth. If you can imagine holding the Earth, an image where you can see the Earth still almost, see one point of the Earth, all you'd see is this membrane of light that comes over it and then gets removed, and then we're back in darkness again. And so can you see this image does not reflect what a man would see looking at the daylight? Like a desert Arab wouldn't look up and see, oh yeah, we're just skinning away the daylight and there you're in darkness. So that's what I meant. It causes reflection, but it plays with words and it evokes images that the more we learn, it only brings these images into sharper focus, not into less focus. And that's the amazing thing about the Quranic discourse, if you like, about the universe. Sometimes it focuses on exactly what you're experiencing, but even there, its expressions are so tasteful and so powerful. And what's powerful here is not just that it captures really what we know about daylight, but it captures the idea that the daylight you enjoy is not, you shouldn't assume that it's the way things are meant to be, because all that you have is darkness. All that you have is the non-being, the absence of light. The light you enjoy, in which you work, in which you engage in your industries and activities, is a light that's part of a very careful order created for you. So it shows care, it shows purpose, and it also captures temporality. This daylight is not a permanent thing. It will go, and you go back to what it is, the origin of everything. And your life, that's where you're going to see the signs are presented always to harken back a multitude of lessons. Your life has temporality. It's a beautiful thing, and it's going to go. So the universe, the plants, and you all have something in common, which is a journey towards a destination and an order which ends up back to the plan of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this very few words is capturing a lot and the themes of the surah. But let's move on. Now that we've captured daylight and the wonder of daylight, then it harkens back to think about the sun. And again, it speaks of the sun with the language. The more we learn, it only brings it into sharper focus. وَالشَّمْسُ تَجْرِي لِمُسْتَقَرٍ لَهَا ذَلِكَ تَقْدِيرُ الْعَزِيزِ الْعَلِيمِ. So let's look at the sun. This being, this incredible being called the sun. The sun is incredible. Like I'm only speaking to you now from what? Energy. From what? My food. Where'd the food get it from? The ground, the plants. Where they get it from? The sun. Every act we do, it's energy that's coming to us from this incredible being that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created. And so we are called often to think about this being at the center of our little part of the world, the sun. So let's look at this. Washamsu. And this sun is tajri. And Aubrey captures it really well. Again, a very interesting and fascinating choice of verbs you're going to see throughout this little section. First of all, it's a present tense verb. It's a continuous act that it's engaged in. And what is the act? It's running. The sun is running as if it's moving very hastily. The sun is running, constantly running. And what's it running? For the sake of. Again, the sun is in this whole section, it's almost treated like a sane being, like it's purposeful. It's running for the sake of. For the sake of what? For the sake of its mustaqar. The mustaqar means the place of qarar, a resting point. So the sun is running and hastening because it has its date with destiny. And what's the date of destiny of the sun? It's the point because mustaqar means in Arabic both time and place. It's the time and the place where the sun will be told, stop. This is the end point. No more running for you. And the sun is almost running towards for the sake of its final point. And again, you'll see this layering of images, just like us. The universe is purposeful. If you see it, don't think that we are not purposeful, that we are not running to our end point. And what is the end point? In kullun jami'un ladayna muhdarun, that end point. And even mustaqar, there's even within it is the imagery, because the real word for endpoint you can say is qarar or maqar. It's going towards the resting point. But mustaqar, for students of Arabic, maybe this is form 10, it shows an emphasis, like the sun is seeking, the sun has sought out the resting point. Again, like it's a conscious being. The sun is seeking out, and for the sake of, it's exerting effort, and it's running really fast to get to the end point. So it will stop. And so will all things reach their end point, and they'll have to stop. This image of running, you know, for the desert Arab, for the early people, they would have seen the sun running across the sky, and then it kind of goes off for a while, and they don't really see it anymore. They don't see really the present tense verb of constant running. And what we see now, you know, again, the more we learn, the sharper it gets. What we see now is the sun is engaged in incredible movement. Do you know? Okay, the sun moves in multiple planes, right? It's moving on its own axis. It's moving around its galaxy. Then the galaxies, that body of galaxies are moving, and then the whole universe is moving. So the sun has multiple points of movement. But just one of these points of movement, its rotation around the center of its galaxy, we believe, what we understand is its movement is approximate speed of 200 kilometers a second. So by the time I finished saying this one sentence I've started right now, the sun will have moved, and we're part of its system, 1,000 kilometers. So you can get this, and that's just one of the planes of movement. So you get this mind-boggling sense of everything is running, an urgent date with destiny to reach the end point. And then it says, ذَلِكَ, that. Now the word that, the Quran often uses that also for rhetorical purpose, because we could have said this, because we're talking about the sun right now. This is the sign. This is the mark of God's order. But when the Quran says that to something which you've just been speaking about, it's showing distance, and the distance is one of extreme height sometimes. So we'll say, for example, the Quran starts by saying, that is the book. That's the very first verse of Surah Al-Baqarah. Alif Lam Mim, that is the book. And translators struggle how to express this. Often they'll say, this is the book. Because if you say that is the book, someone reading will say, which one? I thought this was the book. But in Arabic, you'll say that, not to mean it's distant in place almost, but it's distant in rank. That is the book, that book, which is so far from you in its rank and greatness, that is the book that we're talking about. So that meaning height or greatness or grandeur or majesty. That is showing this incredible order of the universe. That incredible order is the very precise measuring and determination of who? Al-Aziz Al-Alim. ذَلِكَ تَقْدِيرُ الْعَزِيزِ الْعَلِيمِ. That is the precise measuring of Al-Aziz. We saw Aziz earlier on, if you remember. The Quran was the revelation of Al-Aziz. And the Aziz, we said, he's the one who is invincible. No one can overcome him. If he wants to do something, it will happen. Why is it so appropriate? Because the sun is such an incredible being, and he is controlling all of these incredible beings. He is the Aziz. He is the invincible. Everything surrenders to him. The sun surrenders to him. The galaxy surrenders to him. And who are you to think you're not going to surrender to him? Or you're going to avoid your date with your destiny at that plane of gathering? He's the Aziz and he's the Alim. He knows everything. And the knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, obviously it's beyond the finite to grasp the knowledge which is infinite. But the more we learn about the book of the universe, the more we are boggled by just the precision of everything, the order of every little thing, the forces that hold together the electrons and the neutrons, and the knowledge the knowledge that must accompany that sort of determination. We can never grasp the knowledge of the infinite being, but just by grasping the determination of everything, you will faint. You will literally lose your senses. What kind of order is all of this? He is Al-Alim and He is Al-Aziz, and these are the marks of all of that. And again, going back to the core argument. So what are you denying then? Wal-Qamar. And so the day and the night, the day took us to the sun and the sun took us to the moon, this other incredible being, which sadly we don't have much of a relationship with. We, the moderns, don't relate to the moon very much. We understand the sun because we measure our years with the solar calendar. We feel the seasons, which is connected to the movement of the sun. And obviously the day and night we're always busy. We're always planning our days. The moon is this beautiful being that unfortunately we, the moderns, are a bit distant from. But the Arabs had an actually possibly closer relationship to the moon. Not just the Arabs, the ancient peoples, and they did to the sun. The moon was a beautiful companion to them. So let's look at the moon. Then it says, وَالْمُونَ قَدَّرْنَاهُ. We have again precisely determined for the moon what? Manazil. وَالْقَمَرَ قَدَّرْنَاهُ مَنَازِلَ حَتَّى عَادَ كَالْعُرْجُونِ الْقَدِيمِ. And the moon, we've determined it by stations. And Aubrey's captured this correctly. Many translators translate this as phases. You know, like you have the full moon, the half moon, the crescent moon. But manazil does not mean phases. It means literally manzila, or a manzil. We use it in modern Arabic. It's the place where someone lives. هذا منزل المهندس so-and-so. You have a sign outside people's doors. The residence of Dr. So-and-so. So manzil is residence. And so the manzil in classical Arabic is if you're traveling, it's where you set up your camp at night. So you do nuzul, you get down from your animal and you settle there for the night, and then you carry on. So it's a place of stopping on a journey. That's why station is an accurate rendition of this. So the moon, we determined for it precise stations. It goes through all of them in its month until it comes back, like an aged palm bough. What you have is, you have the palm tree, and then it has stalks. At the end of the stalk, you have your fruit. You pick the fruit and the stalk stays. And when the stalk withers up and dries, it becomes curved and it becomes pale in color. And so it's an image for the moon at the end of the month. Again, multitude of images are being evoked in these passages. One is the passage of just its circle of life. It went through a full life and it waned and became dead. And then the next month it starts to be born and then it goes on its cycle again. And so it evokes the image of death at the end of its month. It also ties together the image of the palm and the moon, which is, we spoke about palm trees earlier. So just tying the images together, just to make it tidy almost. What are the manazil of the qamar? I have to thank my friend Sam Ross, who I rely on for all things astronomical. He's actually an expert in Qur'an studies, but also in physics and astronomy. He's my teacher and coach, really. So a little thing here I understand very little of. This little picture here looks more like a astrological sort of map, but it illustrates what the manazil meant. So the classical Quranic commentators named the manazil. So what happened was, don't try to read this. It's almost, the words are just names, right? There's no explanation here really. But what happened was that the Arabs had divided, and the classical peoples, but the Arab names have somehow persisted into the modern astronomy. So a lot of the names of stars, we know the names of constellations, Gemini and Orion and so on, but the Arabs named individual stars, not just the constellations. And many of the individual names of the stars today are actually Arab names. And so Arabs had a very close relationship to the night and to the night sky. So what they did was, they noticed that, and not just the Arabs, again, this we can say pre-modern people and ancient people, they saw that the moon every night occupied a very fixed part of the sky in relation to the stars. And so what the Arabs did was they divided the night sky into 28 parts. And these 28 parts were the 28 manazil of the moon. And so they would say, oh, today the moon is in the manzila, and this is the name. anyway, I can read this one. Al-Kalb. They'd call it Al-Kalb, which literally means the dog. So it would relate to maybe some of the pictures they could see in the stars, or the predatory animal. And it would be the name given that corresponds to this star that we currently call Antares. And it's part of this constellation, which is Scorpio. So that, the 12 signs of the zodiac, why are they the 12 signs of the zodiac? These are the main constellations which the moon and the sun pass through. As we look at the night sky, the moon will always be parallel to these particular stars and star groups as it passes through the night. And what we find is the movement of the moon is completely regular. So in every single night, it will always correspond to a particular station, which the people of the desert would know with a particular station, with a particular star. And this makes moon counting very, very precise. Because if today I'm speaking to you and the moon is in this star called Spica, I'll say, oh yeah, don't worry. You can hold off on paying the rent. I'll come knocking on your door when the moon is in this moon. It says Miraj over there. I don't know if I can pronounce it properly. When the moon is in Miraj, I'm going to come and ask for my rent. So this is the amount you have. So the stations of the moon were a very precise way to measure time, a very precise way to sense how many days the moon has traveled and how the month has progressed. And why are these movements so precise and easy for us to measure? It's because the moon moves in a circle around the Earth. Some moons have a sort of an oval-shaped orbit, so they jump in the night. But the moon has a perfect circular orbit around the Earth, so it stops in exactly fixed points in the lunar month, and each of these correspond to the stars. And so these stations are these beautiful determined things with which we can measure our nights, our days, our appointments, and our times. And it's sad that we, the moderns, have no connection to the moon at all. And that's why Ramadan is almost a blessing, because it's the one time of the year we think, oh yeah, where's the moon meant to be? Did someone see it? What did it look like? And so on. And the Qur'an calls us to a relationship, to establish a relationship with all of these beings. And then after discussing the sun and the moon, then it almost answers this thought that might occur to the mind of this pre-modern person, which is the sun passes through the same zodiac constellations, the moon passes by the same zodiac constellations, they both look exactly the same size. Are they ever going to collide or crash, or how is all this being managed really? And this verse is just highlighting, listen, this system is not as you think. And that's the other amazing thing, that although the moon is so much smaller than the sun, the way everything is proportioned, if you look at a solar eclipse, is literally the moon is exactly the same size as the sun. It just shows almost a perfect measurement of these heavenly bodies for the sake of our earthly life, and how we can reflect and connect with everything in this universe. A very perfect ordering, showing might, knowledge, wisdom, purpose, destiny, end point. So everything comes back to Allah. So just highlighting this idea that things aren't as you see. The order is too perfect, and what you perceive is nothing of what the real order is. So لَا الشَّمْسُ يَنْبَغِي لَهَا أَن تُدْرِكَ الْقَمَرَ وَلَا اللَّيْلُ سَابِقُ النَّهَارِ وَكُلٌّ فِي فَلَكٍ يَسْبَحُونَ. The sun, it's not fitting or possible, nor can it ever catch up with the moon. They will never have any collision of any sort. They're separate. Again, the order is not as you think, O people on earth. The order is more perfect and majestic than that. وَلَا اللَّيْلُ سَابِقُ النَّهَارِ. Nor can the night outstrip the day. Sabaqa means a race. And over here, what it means is the night, it's almost like, again, it's an image presenting a sort of competition. The night cannot run away from the day. The night can't escape the consequence of day catching up with it, as if they're just catching up with each other. And in one verse of the Qur'an, يُكَوِّرُ اللَّيْلَ عَلَى النَّهَارِ. The night wraps itself around the day. Again, beautiful images which evoke comparisons with things you are familiar with. And the more we learn about space, the sharper the images become, not the less dull. So again, this sort of like a race of night and day going around each other. None will escape the grasp of the other. And the final statement, and we've left the universe, وَكُلٌّ فِي فَلَكٍ يَسْبَحُونَ. Again, an amazing description. And each, and the word each is actually for plural, as is the verb. So it means the sun, the moon, and the implied beings we've been speaking about in the manazil. Who are they? The stars. All these bodies, we find them moving around the night sky, or the sun only, in the day sky. Each of these beings is in a falak. It's in a sort of orbit. It's in a sort of track for itself. It's in its own course. But look at this amazing verb, swimming. It's interesting because we saw sabaha in subhan, which is swimming. We're going to see swimming's connection with the next thing. So I just want to point out this, it's a beautiful tapestry of images and words which connect with each other very seamlessly. So swimming connects with the subhan, it connects with the next thing we're going to talk about, which is the sea, but it's being used to describe the sun and the moon and the stars in the way that they move. And it's amazing because sabaha shows speed. Again, it's capturing something. The more we learn, the sharper it gets, that everything in the universe is moving at this fast speed. It's constant, present tense verb. Nothing is actually still, though it looks like. Everything is constantly in motion. And the idea of swimming is interesting because it shows these are freely moving bodies. Because some of the pre-modern people thought that the orbits we see everything moving in are solid, and there's something solid that's moving, and so the planets are moving on something solid. And this expression is negating that particular astronomical view and saying, no, everything is swimming. It's free. These are free moving bodies, but they're swimming on a course and they're going towards their destination. My friend Sam, he said the swimming on a course almost seems like an image you could use for the warp of space-time, that everything is moving on a course, but the course is what's shifting and everything is just moving along, floating forwards. Powerful imagery, but we've got to move on. Now we're going to come down to signs from what's more closer to man now, signs from the past again, because the surah started with the story, if you remember last week. Haven't they reflected on the people before? And then it said, why are they thinking we can't do this? Why are they thinking life is without purpose? Look at the earth, look at the sky. And now we're going to look at something which brings us back to the past again, tying us back to the first argument, that these guys are really fools for rejecting things now after seeing all of these signs. So now we're coming back to a sign from the past. That's how many commentators interpreted this reference here to the loaded ship. It says, وَآيَةٌ لَهُمْ أَنَّا حَمَلْنَا ذُرِّيَّتَهُمْ فِي الْفُلْكِ الْمَشْحُونَ. And an incredible sign for them is that we carried their offspring, an interesting phrase here, in the loaded ship. The phrase loaded ship occurs elsewhere in the Holy Qur'an as a reference to the ship of Prophet Nuh alayhi salam, the first ship that was built through divine inspiration. Why was it loaded? Because of the people of Nuh were with him alayhi salam, and he brought animals with him as well. So the ship was full. And who was on the ship of Nuh? Human beings, the people with Nuh. Everybody else was destroyed, and all of humanity came out of the humans on that ship. And so that ship is a sign of, there's a number of signs, which is this is the first group of people who were destroyed for rejecting a prophet. B, how amazing it was that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created this means for their delivery, which was this incredible ship, a means that we all copy now in building ships to traverse the oceans. But then not only that, but that deliverance of Noah was not just a deliverance of Noah. It was a deliverance of you and me, because our parents were on the ship. This is the second father of humanity, they call him, Prophet Nuh alayhi salam, after Adam. So the people who were saved on Noah's ark was not just Noah and the people with him, but it was the seed of all of humanity, which includes Quraysh, includes you and me, includes our children as well. All of us were carried. So it's this miracle through which humanity was saved for people to reflect upon. And most civilizations have some story of this, the great flood and the great deliverance, the ancient story of humanity. What's interesting here is just this phrase that the people who were saved on the ship, Allah could have said, I saved you on the ship because you are from the offspring. But instead it says, I saved your children on that ship. Just to point out that the story of humanity going on, just like we saw earlier, the azwaj, the children, the pairing of humanity is for the sake of children. And everybody's most dearest thing is their own seed. And Allah is saying, look at the sign. We bore, we saved, we protected their seed in that ship. An amazing means for preserving the seed of humanity after reflecting on the amazing means of bringing forth the seeds of the grains from the earth. So all the images are really connecting in a very beautiful way. And not to forget, in the last verse, we had the word falak for orbit and sibaha for swimming. And in this verse, we have the word fulk for ship. So even the word choice is just preparing the seamless transition into the next sign from heaven to the oceans. وَخَلَقْنَا لَهُم مِّن مِّثْلِهِ مَا يَرْكَبُونَ. And we in our majesty have created for their sake, from the like of it, that which they are riding. Some interpret this to mean other ships that we made now on the model of Noah's Ark. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created the material and He inspired that knowledge. And so we make these ships that we traverse the oceans, which is the most incredible form of journeying and trade in the ancient world. And some add to this the ships of the land, which are the desert, which are the camels, all from the wonder of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's creation. And then it says, وَإِن نَشَأْ نُغْرِقْهُمْ فَلَا صَرِيخَ لَهُمْ وَلَا هُمْ يُنْقَذُونَ. Then to go back to the point of everything, which is, look at the imagery we had. We were reminded of Allah's signs, but that they came to an end. Day is temporary. It has to go back to night. The sun is powerful, but it's going to its end course. The moon is this beautiful thing, which at the end is withered and dead. And so the Qur'an often reminds of blessings, but reminds that these blessings, you shouldn't be carried away by them, because they all go to an end point. So Allah's saying, yes, there's this great miracle of the seas, but these guys aren't reflecting. And don't they realize, inna sha' wa inna sha' nughriqhum fala sarikha lahum wa la hum yunqadhun. If we will, in our majesty, we will drown them. There's nothing stopping that drowning except for our will. And Shaykh al-Islam Abu Sa'ud, he says, Allah's tying the drowning only to His will implies that these people, the primary addressees now of these passages, those who deny the resurrection, denied the prophets, these people who are not grateful to Allah for the blessings of food, don't reflect on the universe, these people have already deserve to be destroyed. They already deserve to be sunk. Whatever they had to do, they've done. The only thing keeping them afloat on the sea is that Allah hasn't willed it yet, not that they don't deserve it. That's why it's tying it to will, and it's a present tense verb. In any moment, all we have to do is will it and they'll be drowned. And if we will it, la sarikha lahum, no one will be there to save them. Sarikh means somebody who saves from someone from surakh. Surakh means screaming. So if you imagine the scene, you're in danger and you're screaming, help, help, really top of your lungs with surakh. The sarikh is the one who answers the scream, and he comes to save you so that you stop screaming. So the la sarikh, if we wanted to give them a disaster at sea that's so intense that they're screaming their lungs out, no one would be able to help them if Allah wants them to drown. وَلَا هُمْ يُنْقَذُونَ. And there's no other deliverance that would come to them, no floating wood, nothing. If we will to drown them, there'll be no one they could scream to for help, and no one that could save them. The only thing that would ever save them at sea is إِلَّا رَحْمَةً مِنَّا وَمَتَاعًا إِلَى حِينٍ, is an incredible mercy that comes from us. That's what's keeping them at sea. The incredible mercy of Allah. Not that they deserve to be kept afloat on that water after not thanking Him for the food. and not answering to the messengers and not surrendering to him and glorifying him as he deserves. Just his mercy is what's keeping them afloat. وَمَتَاعًا إِلَى حِينٍ. And extended enjoyment which has to come to an end. An enjoyment for a while. As the poet said, Lam aslam, I can't remember how the poem goes now. Anyway, Lam aslam li abqa walakin salimtu min al-himami ila al-himami. I wasn't saved or delivered from a near-death experience so I could actually live. I just saved one death so I could die another death. So every enjoyment, it's saying, yeah, it's all temporary. Even if we saved you at sea, don't think that that's it now. That's just for a little extension. But the end result and the end journey is the end journey which is coming. And the final two verses before we stop is reflecting on, again, these addressees of the argument. Now, the arguments speak to all of us. I think all of us have been and should be moved to think about what we've been thinking about: the sun, the moon, the stars, the food, the rain, the gratitude, the power of Allah, the end point, the temporality. All of us should be moved by that. So the Quran has a primary argument, which in these set of signs and in this verse is an argument with those who deny. But even in this, it's speaking to everybody. That little voice that wants to deny, it's saying, get lost. What are you trying to do? It's obvious. It's an argument for every sort of denying voice, if you like. So it's saying these people who it's now bringing to the people we started with, right? The people who reject the prophets, who make fun of the prophets. After taking us onto a journey of science, we're now back with them. We can really appreciate how ugly they are after the journey of science. وَإِذَا قِيلَ لَهُمُ اتَّقُوا مَا بَيْنَ أَيْدِيكُمْ وَمَا خَلْفَكُمْ لَعَلَّكُمْ تُرْحَمُونَ. And when it is said to them, it is said, whoever it might be, they don't care. Is it the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam or any of the believers or anybody? They don't care. They don't care about anybody. If it is said to them, protect yourselves, guys. Ittaqu means really take effort, guard yourself, shield yourself from what is before you and what is behind you. Hopefully you'll be shown mercy. What is before you and what is behind you, what is a reference to? The historical signs we've been looking at. That when they are told, look at what happened to the people of Noah, look at what happened to all these people who've been perished before, the stories in the Quran, the Qariya we just had in Surah Yasin, those are the people who've come before. So what is before you means what has been seen, the things that have happened in the past. They have been seen. The end outcome, you've seen it now. You've seen what happens if you fight the messengers. Protect yourselves from that outcome. And what is behind you, the things you haven't seen yet, which is the things the messengers are telling you about, of the final coming and the judgment before God and the final destiny of people based on their choices. Protect yourselves, have taqwa, shield yourself, guard yourself from the consequences of what you've seen in history and the consequences of what you haven't seen yet, but you're being told about. Do that so you can be shown mercy. Seek the mercy of Allah. When this is said to them, what's the response? When this is said, so you're waiting for a response, what do they say? The Quran doesn't give their response. It's almost too ugly. It just gives their pattern. What is their pattern? وَمَا تَأْتِيهِم مِّنْ آيَةٍ مِّنْ آيَاتِ رَبِّهِمْ إِلَّا كَانُوا عَنْهَا مُعْرِضِينَ. And there is no verse that ever comes, present tense verb, any sign at all, no sign from the signs of their nurturing Lord. Remember we said Rabb is the one who takes someone state by state to their completion. We can say the nurturing Lord. No sign from the signs of the nurturing Lord comes to them, as if the sign itself wants to convey something, like the sign is coming, please look at me. No sign comes from the sign of the nurturing Lord to teach them something, to explain something to them, except it finds them in this state. What is it? كَانُوا عَنْهَا مُعْرِضِينَ. They ever are from these signs, ever turning away. This is almost an explanation now of why it is we went back to the beginning, right? They're prisoners It's like the signs are screaming at them. If you look up, there's the sun. If you look down, there's the earth. If it's night, there's the moon. If you want to reflect on what's familiar, listen to the messengers. After all of that, all they do is turn away, turn away, turn away, turn away. So you can really then see, really visually now, after argument, the ugliness of this way of being, the sheer ugliness of this way of being. They are not good to God. They're not grateful to Him for His kindness. And finally, nor are they good to people. Because the scholars say this, the deen, the shara'i', the things that Allah wants from people, always revolve around two simple ideas: at-ta'zeem lillah wa shafaqatu ala ibadillah. Venerating, respecting, glorifying, having awe and respect for God, and showing compassion and pity to the slaves of God. And so Allah is now saying, after speaking about their relationship to Him purely, He's now showing how that reflects in their relationship with people. وَإِذَا قِيلَ لَهُمْ أَنْفِقُوا مِمَّا رَزَقَكُمُ اللَّهُ قَالَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أَنُطْعِمُ مَنْ لَوْ يَشَاءُ اللَّهُ أَطْعَمَهُ إِنْ أَنْتُمْ إِلَّا فِي ضَلَالٍ مُبِينٍ. And when it is said to them, whoever it might be, spend from that which Allah, the majestic, the mighty, just to give a sense of awe, the majestic Allah has given you in rizq. Rizq is like regular provision, your provender, what comes to you almost daily to feed you. When they are told spend, and there's the word min, some of, some of that, spend some of that which Allah is giving you. It's not even yours, it's His. How do they respond? قَالَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا. Those who have done kufr, those who have disbelieved in Allah, say, showing that this next sentence only behooves a disbeliever. It does not behoove a believer in God to hold back from caring for the needy. And they say this to the people who have believed, لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا, showing part of belief in Allah, part of relating to the universe, thanking Him for the food, part of it is caring for the needy. And not only that, but speaking about the need to care for the needy. So it's the believers who urge for food. And those who urge for food are embodying the traits of believers. And those who don't want to take care of the needy are embodying the traits which really are fitting only to those who have denied Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So what do they say? This is the last verse, by the way. Again, a question of rebuke. An-nut'imu, should we feed those who, had Allah willed, He would have fed them? It's such an interesting sentence here, because these disbelievers are saying, why should we feed someone if Allah wanted He could feed them? And they're saying this to make fun of the believers. And that's why they say at the end, in antum illa fi dalalin mubin. You guys are not except inside a huge error that's obvious. Again, I've just translated all the rhetorical points that we've been seeing. You guys are nothing except inside an incredible error, and it's blaringly obvious. So they really say, in other words, you guys are idiots and fools. What do you think? If Allah wanted, He'll feed them. Why are you knocking on my door? This is my food. So there's a few things going on here. First of all, what the believers asked them to do was spend. Spend could mean much, spend could mean little. And what these people were denying was feeding. Feeding is something really little. It's like, just a loaf of bread. And so it's like you tell someone, spend £1, and they're saying, why should I spend a penny on someone that God can feed him? So it shows their extreme miserliness. And again, you can see Surah Yasin is working in these huge, very clearly defined binaries. Most people are somewhere in the middle, and Surah Yasin is urging you, by showing you the ugliness of one pole and the beauty of one pole, is urging you to travel in a particular direction. And so part of the ugliness of the ugly pole is this miserliness, which the Quran is saying only befits unbelief. Like belief can never, should never, can never really mix with this level of miserliness. where they say, why should I even feed people the little bit of food? Forget the spending you guys are talking about. And look at their mocking. You guys believe this money came to me from Allah, right? Well, Allah can feed him. What's it got to do with me? What's happening in this is A, they're mocking, but B, it shows they haven't seen what we've been looking at in today's lesson. What I've been seeing is purpose in everything. You know, the rain comes, it brings out the grain for purpose, for our eating. The sun, everything is moving for purpose. Allah gave you money for purpose. It's your job to figure it out. Allah made some people rich and some people poor for purpose. You have to figure it out. It's in every human being's nature to know it, the purpose of charity and what it brings to people and why it exists. And the prophets have come to emphasize it almost more than anything. After belief in the oneness of Allah and the reality of resurrection and moral accountability, it's caring for those who are around you. And so it shows the complete blindness to all of the signs. Rather, Allah made some rich and poor so that societies would develop and some would care for others, and the rich would have the reward of caring for the needy. Not just Allah did it without them. But these guys have denied all purpose. And so all they see is chaos in religion. All they see is contradiction in religion. Why? Because they didn't really open their hearts to honest reflection. If they did, they would see everything is creating and furthering a beautiful hikmah, a beautiful ordering in everything. And so this last verse is just showing they're not just ugly in their dealings with Allah, but even in their dealings with people. Religion has skipped them all together, and it looks chaotic because their minds have not seen out the hikmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We stop here today, but just to show you how it moves on into the next verse, because we're dealing with this with the ugly pole of humanity. And they say, when is this promise anyway, which you're talking about? Because we've been arguing for an end point. When is the promise anyway? And an answer is going to come, and they're going to wish almost they didn't ask, because the answer is going to come in a very visible, visual, powerful, evocative, emotive way, which we'll inshallah ta'ala be seeing next week, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. What we've been seeing is, again, there's a variety of ways you could reflect to the verses of today, but you do get this one thing I want to end with, is just that the Quran really wants you to live in the universe with wonder, to look at the sun as if you've never seen it before, to feel the night as if you've never felt it before, to eat your food as if you've never eaten food before. And you eat and say, Subhanallah, how amazing is the one who's created and I want to say infinite, but a huge set of causes just so I could get this bread in front of me. Allah wants you to live in the world with wonder, because if you live in the world with wonder, your heart will instantly soak up the message of the messengers. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. My apologies again in going on, but I think we just have a fair bit of ground to cover. We do have a little bit of time before iftar. We'll just take a few questions. And then we'll stop, inshallah. Okay. Good. Let me just get an idea of time as well. Okay, we actually have a lot of time, but I won't take up a lot of time. Inshallah, we'll stop in 5 minutes. Sorry, I just left the questions. Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Yeah, in verse 36, you mentioned Subhanallah expressed, I declare Allah's distance and perfection. Can you explain what you mean by distance? The distance is not spatial at all. All it means is He is far above what your limited minds might conceive of Him. He's far above the limitations of your imagination. He's far above the limitations of your ascriptions and even of your words. He's far above certainly the false attributions of these ignorant people whom the Quran is arguing with in this surah. But that's the idea, that He is the infinite being and He's the perfect being. And so subhanAllah, just recognizing He's above my categories, because your categories are of space and time. He's beyond space and time. So He's just distant. He's just so beyond. He's just so beyond. He's just so perfect. And that's what subhanallah is. It's the surrendering of the mind and its inability to really capture it's I'm declaring his distance, a declaration. His distance is declared. His extreme distance is declared. That's what I'm saying every time I say, Subhanallah, Subhanallah, Subhanallah. This is what we the absolute perfection of Allah. That's what the distance is. Distance means perfection, total and utter perfection. Yeah, is the Quran suggesting that the stages of the moon are tied to human life? I brought that in because I'm just trying to show you how, even though you can take this verse, وَالْقَمَرَ قَدَّرْنَاهُ مَنَازِلَ حَتَّى عَادَ كَالْعُرْجُونِ الْقَدِيمِ. You can take it in abstraction and just think about the wonder of the moon, the stations, as certainly the desert people and the ancient peoples used to travel and to measure time. We can reflect on so many things, but what I'm trying to also, I guess, train you in is to show that each surah is a tapestry of themes, language, and arguments. And if you try and relate it back, you'll see, oh, that's why this came here. So, we're talking about the purpose, the end return, Allah's power to revive the dead. And so when you think of these images, you'll think of how appropriate it is then that the moon moved through all of these stations. In the first station of that month, it was barely newborn and it reached its fullness, but then it has to be like that withered branch, as if it's dead now. It's like a life cycle, but it's a life cycle that gets renewed. And the withered branch connects again in imagery. We were just talking about the palm trees a few verses earlier. So just trying to show you how the images connect to what's before it and after it, although you can take each of it in abstraction. And that's why the goal is not for me to tell you how to reflect, is that once you get this, you keep reflecting. That's what's beautiful about the Quran then. You take this, our discussion, but don't stop with it. Recite the surah. Recite the surah, especially in times when you're feeling sad, or in times when you're feeling happy, or times when you're feeling lonely. And you will relate with different emotions to these images, and you'll find different ways that they connect to you and to the surah. So I'm not at all limiting it, but it's showing you how these reflect in a larger set of images that we have to think about, or we should think about. Verse 40, is it possible to take yasbahun in the meaning of glorification? This is very interesting as well. It's one point that I actually forgot to mention myself, or I hinted at it briefly. The choice of verbs ascribed to the sun and more the sun in the passage showed almost a sort of intelligent intent. It was running for the sake of, it's almost effortfully arrived at end point. Even in this verse, which was kullun fi falakin yasbahuna, yasbahuna, even in the form, although I forgot to mention this, it's the form normally used for intelligent plurals. So in modern Arabic, you wouldn't say yasbahuna to speak about heavenly bodies, even if you were going to say that they're swimming. In modern Arabic, you would say tasbahu. Even classic, in normal Arabic, actually, even classical Arabic, you would say tasbahu, they are swimming. That's the way you would do it for the non-intelligent beings. Yasbahuna is specifically for the intelligent beings. And so the Quran does that as well. It personifies nature. Some people, certainly some of the, I'll just say some scholars have taken this literally to speak about a sort of life that everything enjoys. And others have seen it as a form of personification to show that everything hearkens to the order of God as if it's living. But the Quran does stress this personification, certainly in the relation of things to Allah Himself. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَإِن مِّن شَيْءٍ إِلَّا يُسَبِّحُ بِحَمْدِهِ وَلَكِنْ لَا تَفْقَهُونَ تَسْبِيحَهُم. There's no thing in the whole universe except that it itself is saying Subhanallah. How perfect is Allah. Subhanallah, 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 Subhanallah. But it's saying this in a way that you cannot comprehend. So the Quran already attributes a sort of living relationship almost between things and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And in this verse, it was evoked by the masculine plural form of the verb. Everything is swimming, almost like it's consciously moving. Can you say this is swimming means tasbih? The Arabic form isn't the correct one for that. The Arabic form would have been kullun fi falakin yusabbihuna. It would have been yusabbihuna if it were to mean tasbih. And also yusabbihuna has no relation to the falak, to this orbit or the course. So what suits the course is not tasbih, it's swimming. This idea of quickly moving, quickly and freely moving, floating at a good speed. Again, it's a beautiful image. It captures a lot of what we believe now about the nature of movement of these heavenly beings. Good. These are the questions that I have. So I think maybe it's a good place to stop now. What I wanted to say was, first of all, in the last 10 days of Ramadan, CMC, we're planning to share with people some of the stories of those who are joining us for this for our Ramadan program. So especially for people who are joining us from outside of the UK, if you would like to be part of that storytelling of people, of how we've come together across the world to almost share this Ramadan journey together, we'd really appreciate if you would reach out to us, tell us, where you're from, and that you're interested in us reaching out to you and asking you a little bit about your story and how this experience has been for you, joining us from around the world on this story of Ramadan courses. So we'd love to hear from you. And if you'd like us to, if you would allow us almost to contact you and learn about your own story, please contact us at the email courses, COURSES at Cambridge Muslim College, one word, .ac.uk. Courses at Cambridge Muslim College, .ac. .uk. And a last message, for people, if you find that you've been benefiting from the Ramadan program, the various courses that the college has been offering, again, please do consider donating to the college in this blessed month, so that we can carry on offering knowledge and teaching, education, research, to serve the Muslim community within the UK and also worldwide. So do consider donating to help the college carry on in its very important work, inshallah ta'ala. And I think that's a good point to stop then. Thank you all very, very much. And inshallah ta'ala, we'll see you all next week. Wa sallallahu ta'ala ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.